So if you saw our short, you know that my best friend Nick ran a marathon without training at all. And then I showed him a few stretches to help with his tight hip flexors after. But we want to make sure that those stretches not only open up the hip flexors, we want to make sure that it sticks later. And the way we want to do that is by having some stretches to help to open up the muscles and help get some blood flow. But then we want to add some strength work and we want to add some motor control afterwards. There's a ton of things out there on the internet that can tell you about how to open up your hip flexors or get splits or things like this. But I want to go through a deep dive today of some of the things that I do to help make these things stick long term. So let's take a look. So in the short, I showed you a couple stretches up against the wall that are variations on the couch stretch, but let's say that's still too aggressive for you. You're not ready to get your knee up on the wall. You may have pain in the knee, or it may just be too tight and you can't get there. Let's talk about a way that we can use a lunge to help open this up from the beginning. What we want to do is you're going to start in this lunge position, and most people when they try to stretch the hip flexors, they arch their back and they go really far forward to try to find a stretch there. But why don't we use anatomy to our advantage? What I want you to do here is I'm going to have you tuck your tailbone. Now we can either arch the back or we can tuck there, and I want you to keep that tucked because it's going to put that hip flexor in the quad in a good position to get a good stretch. Once we tuck that tailbone, squeeze the glute on that side, and you're only going to have to move about an inch or so before you feel a nice big stretch right up here in the front, okay? You may still get some down in the quad here, but you really should feel it up in the top. And typically with this, I'll use breathing. So I'll have you inhale, kind of brace the core, lock in that position. Exhale, you're gonna squeeze that glute and drive a little further into the stretch there. And we can just run through 3 to 5 breaths here, and you should already have a nice big stretch on that hip flexor. We can also use a band to help us open this up with a banded mobilization. For one, this just feels really nice, but two, it's gonna help pull and really help with some of the joint compression that you're feeling whenever we've gone and ran a marathon without training, or just someone who sits at a desk all day. So you're gonna wrap this band around the leg there, get it nice right up in that hip crease. From here, we're gonna get out, have a little bit of pull with the band, and you're gonna feel that. And then we're gonna work on that stretch from here, letting that band decompress that hip joint. It should feel really nice and you should get a nice stretch. And generally with this, I'm just gonna work in and out with just light stretches, in and out. This is really just to get blood flow to the area and start to open it up. So you don't have to hang out in a deep stretch for a really long time with this one. You're just gonna mobilize it, working your way in and out, maybe going a little bit deeper with each one. Okay, once we've stretched this thing out and we feel pretty good, we have to add some strength work. Many times that tension that you feel, the tightness that we have is actually neurological. Your brain is basically putting on an e-brake to keep you safe, because when this starts to lengthen, we know that if we contract from there, we're gonna cause an injury, so your brain's not gonna let that happen. What we wanna do is we wanna get strong in those end ranges, and we wanna be strong when it comes to compression, because then our brain feels safe and it's gonna let go. So let's look at a couple ways that we can add some compression strength and make sure that those hip flexors are nice and strong, looking for strength through length. So the first thing we wanna see is, can we even use these hip flexors? Can we flex the hips? And we're gonna work on compression strength for that. Now, a lot of people may have to lean back for this. We can do single leg or we can do double leg. The further forward you can go, the better this is gonna be, the harder this is gonna be. My goal for most people is I want you to be able to do 10 leg lifts with your hands past your knees, and I want you to keep your palms pressed down into the floor, okay? As we press into the floor, we're gonna lift our legs off. And you can do a second or so hold there. Without a warm up, I'm already starting to cramp up just from the 1 rep. This is a really difficult exercise. So I want you to start somewhere like this, get your leg lift, hold for about a second, and we're gonna shoot for something like 10 reps. And you're gonna feel all of this working. And for most people, we sit all day long. We're sitting in this compressed position, and we lack strength there. So if we can add strength to that position, it's just gonna help our brain feel safe when we're there. And then we're gonna start to add some of the length, okay? If we have strength through length, then when we go into those lengthened positions, we're gonna be a lot better at opening it up. But we're gonna begin in the safer, more comfortable positions, working on the compression, and then we'll start to work on that length. Now the next way we're gonna strengthen this is by using a banded exercise. This one is one that I really like because we're working on straightening one leg out while we're trying to compress and pull in that other leg using that hip flexor. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna put a little mini band around your feet, line your back, and then you wanna keep one leg straight. Use your hands to help pull the other leg in as tight as you comfortably can, okay? Now the magic with this is you're gonna start to try and fire all of those muscles up here in the hip flexor as we start to let go with the hand, okay? And then we're just gonna do holds here. You don't want your back to be arched like this. You want it to stay plastered on the floor. You want your neck to stay neutral, and you're gonna hold that leg as high up as you comfortably can, shooting for somewhere like 30 seconds or a minute. This is gonna be really difficult. You're gonna feel some cramping in this area, but over time, this is gonna strengthen this, and it's gonna help when we get into those lengthened positions. The last thing we're gonna focus on for strength is one that I really like because you're not only working the hip flexors, but you're getting some grip strength. There's a lot of different factors that are going into this, and this is one of the tougher ones, so you're gonna wanna work your way into this. But we're gonna do hanging knee raises, okay? With this, the big thing I want you to focus on is we're gonna lift up as high as you comfortably can, but we're not just gonna dump out afterwards. A lot of people, as we do these, you're gonna feel yourself start to swing, and we wanna try to control this as well as you can. This is where we start to add some of that strength to length, okay? When I'm doing this, I'm gonna lift up as high as I can, and I wanna control this all the way down into that lengthened position, and then back up, okay? A big thing you wanna focus on with these is we're not gonna be pulling like this as we do it. You wanna fully let yourself dead hang because that's gonna force you to use those hip flexors to do those lifts. Now, it's not gonna take many with these. You may do somewhere between 5 and 10 lifts, and you're gonna feel pretty toast after that. So we're gonna add these in the later phases. Now we're diving into some of the motor control that's related with this, okay? We're gonna do something called a hip car. We're doing this one standing. The important thing with this is that we get all of the movement from the hip, not from rotating like this, not from the low back moving around. You wanna keep everything stable and only move from the hip. Now the first thing that we wanna do is we wanna work on that hip flexion. You're gonna bring this up as high as you comfortably can, and let's say you're stuck here. We really want to fight for that extra tiny little bit that we can get, squeeze everything to try to get a little bit extra out of it. Then we're gonna start to work out to the side. Okay, again, this doesn't go along for the ride. This all stays exactly where it is. You just work the hip out as far as you can, squeeze for that last little bit. Start to rotate through. We're not dumping here. You're keeping everything in that good line. You're gonna work your way back behind, work into extension, and then you're gonna reverse that and work your way back. Now, these should be really nice, slow, and controlled, okay? I don't want you guys rushing through these because we're only gonna do something like 3 reps, and your hips should be toast after those 3 reps. Now, your hips should already be on fire after all the things we've already done, but we're gonna add in something called pails and rails here, okay? We're gonna do different contractions in different directions and see if we can open up that joint space. There's a difference between our passive range of motion and our active range of motion. If I can lift your leg up over your head, that's great, but if you can't actively do it, then that active range of motion is not gonna work its way towards the passive. The passive tends to work its way towards the active. So we're gonna work on that with this. Now, same thing here as the lunge stretch. You wanna make sure you're in that good position, but the big thing I want you to focus on is we're gonna contract, trying to pull this knee forward, okay? So we're gonna keep that tailbone tucked, and you're gonna squeeze everything you can to try and pull this knee forward like you're trying to slide it along the floor. You should feel all of this contracting. We're gonna use breathing here, and we're gonna do somewhere like 3 to 5 breaths. Then we're gonna relax, and I want you to squeeze everything on the backside to drive that back behind you. You can even bring your toe up under and squeeze that back behind you like that. Same thing, 3 to 5 breaths, drop back down, go the other direction, and we're gonna rinse and repeat this for 3 to 5 rounds. This can be as difficult as you wanna make it, but the more intensity we have here, the more physiological change we're gonna find. So you wanna maybe start with 1 round where you're doing like a 20% contraction in both. Second round, we're gonna build up to 30, 40%. By the end of the rounds, we wanna build up to 100% pain-free contraction that you can do, and you're gonna be working hard with this, maybe even breaking a sweat. All right, your hips should be nice and tired at this point. They may even be a little bit shaky. we're gonna add in a long lunge. This is the last thing we wanna use for that motor control. And I just wanna make sure that you can hold this position. We're working on an isometric contraction here, which is gonna help with the tendon around that area. So we're gonna go into the longest lunge that we can hold using sticks or yoga blocks to get us there. We're gonna build up to a 30-second hold, and the goal is to get to where we can lift off and not use these at all. That's gonna take some time. Now, one thing that I like to do is I like to use something like the lines on this mat, because that gives me a good idea of, am I getting further as I do these? So if I put my front foot on that line, my back foot on that line, it tells me where I'm at, and then I work further and further out from that. You can put tape down or something if you want to, but we want to gamify this a little bit and make it more of a task-based training to where my goal each week is to get a little bit further, okay? From here, we're gonna use these sticks, and what I want you to do, we're not lifting up like this. I want you to try to straighten your back knee out without elevating yourself, okay? You'll elevate a little bit, but we wanna try and straighten that back knee out. You're gonna get some hamstring on this side. You're gonna really feel that hip flexor in the back. And as we get better at this, you wanna work on balancing without the sticks, okay? Again, this is working some motor control. It's working an isometric contraction where we are contracting and holding in one spot. We're not lengthening, we're not shortening, we're just holding in that one spot. It's really, really good for tendon health, and we wanna build up to that 30-second hold with this. All right, so these are some of my favorite ways to help open up those hip flexors. There are tons of videos, there's tons of information out on the internet, and these are some of the ones that I like the best. Remember, there's no perfect movement, there's no perfect program, there's no perfect exercise. You wanna find the one that works well for you, that you will do consistently, and that you're gonna sustain doing for a long period of time. This isn't gonna happen overnight. It takes time to help open these guys up and make sure that they feel good most of the time. But if you can find something that is sustainable, something that you'll do consistently, you're gonna wake up in a few months and feel really, really, really good. Now, each day you should feel a little bit better, but you wanna think of this work. Mobility work is no different than strength work. It is exercise. You need recovery days. You don't wanna go full intensity every day. You're not gonna go and squat your max every single day, right? 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 And you don't want to do that with stretching either, okay? We want to make sure that we're giving ourselves time to recover in between, but the stretches that we showed in the beginning are pretty safe to do daily, and then you want to blend these strength and motor control exercises in and make sure that you're not doing too much. You should feel good. Soreness is fine, but we want to keep that pain pretty minimal. Okay, so if you guys have any questions about this, or you're just looking for more ways that we can help open it up, feel free to reach out to me. Go ahead and like and subscribe. We're gonna have more videos about this type of stuff coming out over the next few weeks and months, but this is a really, really good place to start. And remember, you don't have to do all of these in day one. You can start to sprinkle these in little by little, because little things done consistently over time are gonna make big changes in your health. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out, and I hope this has been helpful.